Prince William made a surprise appearance at the British Academy Film Awards, delivering a special message of congratulations to Baroness Floella Benjamin, who was awarded the prestigious BAFTA Fellowship. The former children's TV presenter is known for her work on Play School and Play Away. Making an appearance via video link, the Prince commended her groundbreaking work with children, as well as her long-standing commitment to television broadcasting.
As she receives this year's fellowship for her groundbreaking work with children and young people, her long-standing commitment to television broadcasting, and for her work as an unwavering champion of inclusion.
Meanwhile, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan are being criticised over how they're handling their trip to Nigeria. Host of The Royal Report, Caroline De Russo, argues that although the couple made the visit to Nigeria to try and make a positive impact, it certainly looked like a royal tour. And Caroline points out, if Harry and Meghan don't want to be a royal, then they should stop with the performance.
It's the royal tour which isn't the royal tour, or as entertainment reporter Peter Ford described it, the Audi version of a royal tour. Sad. And this is the point. If you don't want to be a royal, that's totally fine. Go live whatever alternative life is your preference. But go easy on the use of your titles, regal insignia, demanding your children be granted their birthright titles, demanding taxpayer-funded security, and trotting around the planet cosplaying royal tours. If you don't want to be a royal and you don't want the duty and responsibility that goes with it, then please spare us all the performance art. Joining me now is News Corp columnist Louise Roberts and royal commentator Angela Mollard. Angela, Harry appears to have been well received back in London. He seemed pretty happy to be there.
Yeah, this really surprised me because the optics on it, if you look at it initially, the King doesn't meet up with him. No members of the royal family actually attended the Invictus Games ceremony. Obviously, no meeting with William. But behind the scenes, actually, it was a really good visit for Harry. He had 3 days in London. The Invictus ceremony was well received. He was really surprised to find that people were lining the streets and wanted to meet with him. The Spencer family, his late mother's brother and sister, both attended. People like the actor Damian Lewis were there at the service. He read the Invictus poem. And there was a feeling that Harry was back to doing some of the things that we know him to be. He was leading with his heart rather than that hot-headedness we've seen for the last few years. So I think it was an unexpectedly successful visit.
I totally agree. And Louise, you know, lots of speculation about the royal family and what they would or wouldn't do. How did it all play out in the end?
Well, as it turned out, none of the royal family were at the Invictus event at St Paul's Cathedral. However, several of them, including Charles, Camilla, Prince Edward, Sophie and Princess Anne, were in fact at a garden party at Buckingham Palace, some 3 kilometres away, on the same day at the same time. So obviously there's a bit of a diary issue there, and it does make you wonder why Charles is so cautious about meeting up with his youngest son while he's back in the UK. Of course, he saw him in February when he came back after the announcement of Charles's cancer diagnosis. So it was very interesting to see 2 worlds apart. And I really feel now we're at the point with Harry that either Harry is at an event or the rest of the royal family are at a different event. There's not going to be a lot of cross-pollination going on there. And he saw his extended family on his mother's side, of course, Lady Jane Fellows and Earl Spencer. But as for his brother and Kate Middleton, they were nowhere to be seen at either Invictus or at the garden party.
And to be fair though, the garden party would have been planned long in advance. So if the rest of the family were already attending that event at the same time, that there I can sort of understand. Now, Angela, we know there's an ongoing tiff, misunderstanding, whatever you want to call it, between the Sussexes and the Beckhams. But eyebrows were raised this week when Charles appeared to find time for the Beckhamses, but not Harry.
This is really interesting because this was clearly not announced. The Beckhams and the Palace didn't announce it. It's been somebody's leaked it to the Times and it's subsequently been followed up everywhere else. So this was a private meeting on Friday, which was the morning that Harry left London. David Beckham is apparently very interested in the King's Foundation, that charitable foundation of the King's. But I think this is really interesting because if you remember, David Beckham is very old school royals. He queued for 13 hours when the Queen died to be able to pay his respects. We also know that there's no longer any love between the Beckhams and the Sussexes, despite the fact that the Beckhams were invited to the Sussexes' wedding. Subsequent to that, we know the Sussexes have accused the Beckhams of leaking stories to the press. Meghan was apparently not particularly happy that the Beckhams were very good friends with William. So that splinter there, but it won't have felt comfortable for Harry, knowing that his father had time for the former English football captain, but not for his son.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Harry and Meghan, they gave a speech while they were in Nigeria, which is where they went to, obviously, after London. And it was on the subject of mental illness and mental health. Here is a snippet of what they had to say.
It is fantastic to be here in Nigeria with you all and to be here at the school for our first visit.
As I look around this room, I see myself in all of you as well.
If you take anything away from today, just know that mental health affects every single person.
Louise, there was also an interesting report this week that apparently the Sussexes want to generate positive stories. While what they had to say in Nigeria was very good, I struggle to reconcile what they say with what they do.
Well, absolutely, I agree with you 100%, Caro. The thing is, they get very frustrated, Harry and Meghan, when they cannot control the narrative or the PR around them. They go into Nigeria is a bit of a safe space. Obviously, there's the ancestry on Meghan's side, but also they can do that sort of mock royal tour, as we spoke about earlier, and they can make their points via their speeches and know that, you know, they're not going to be castigated or mocked too much in that environment for being sort of, you know, pseudo-royal, as it were, without all the trimmings. So, look, and Harry did make some excellent points, I think, about mental health, about it's not okay to criticise people who've got mental health issues, and it's okay to not be okay in a way. And also, you know, there is still a stigma attached to mental health because it's an illness seen on the inside and not really that transparent to a lot of people. So it would be great to see them do more sort of positive advocacy in this way instead of that sort of scorched earth technique they've had previously when they've sort of relied on Oprah and, you know, their version of the truth to sort of get their message across. But again, they're not working royals, so I think they have to be very careful in the path they take.
And Angela, speaking of getting their message across, we hear another documentary is potentially on the cards.
Yes, we do, but I don't think they'll be getting their message across in this one because I don't think they're obliging and being helpful with this one. This is a German production company who is doing a documentary on their life effectively post-Megxit. So they're going to be talking to people in Montecito, talking to people that the couple have worked with over the last few years. Now, this should be really interesting because we've heard a lot from Harry and Meghan, but we haven't heard about their new life. And the way they operate is really interesting. Tina Brown's seminal book with the Palace Papers took a really good deep dive into Meghan's life in Canada before she met Harry. So I think if these documentary writers, program makers are rigorous, we could get some really good details behind the scenes, the story that they're not prepared to tell us about how they interact with people, how the jam business is going, you know, what it's like being at school with their kids, that sort of thing, which I'd be fascinated to watch, frankly.
I think we all will be, frankly. Now, back to the family in the UK, and Princess Catherine continues her recovery. We aren't getting much detail, but people on the ground are still interested in how she's going. Now, William was asked about her health this week while he was in Cornwall. Here it is.
May I ask how Princess Kate is doing?
She's doing well, everything.
Lovely, and the children as well.
The children are very jealous that I'm here, and then they're not here as well.
Louise, thankfully the spotlight largely has come off Catherine as she recovers. But what's the latest on her recovery and return that we know? And obviously in the meantime, William and Camilla continue to carry on with all those official duties.
They are. They're sort of forging ahead, really. And as far as Catherine's health is concerned, I mean, really, it's what William says. She's doing well. They'll be very specific about the detail they release around her convalescence in order to give her that privacy that obviously she needs to get better and to get back onto the royal system, as it were, in a way. And of course, you know, William and Camilla have been out doing their royal duties, and the fact that William spent the night overnight in Cornwall, which is some 6 or 7 hours drive from London, would suggest that in fact, Kate is old, Catherine is on the mend. The fact that he was happy to spend a night away from her and carry out his royal duties. He was down in Caldwell, he was visiting surf lifesavers, he was at the Isles of Scilly, he was playing volleyball on the beach, which was great to see. So, and of course everyone was delighted to see him. Camilla, meantime, has been going around the country launching these coronation libraries, which is where a lot of books are donated to specific schools to encourage a love of reading amongst kids. And we know from her sort of literary sort of skills that she loves the ideas of books and book clubs, and she's got her own podcast, which is, you know, fantastically successful, unlike Meghan's, of course. So it was great to see her out there sort of spreading the power of reading and education to young children. It's taking the spotlight off Catherine so she can recover at home.
And Angela, it's great to see Charles back at public duties. He really seems to be enjoying himself, and he seems to be balancing things quite well.
Yeah, I tell you who won't be enjoying it is the person who keeps his diary, because what Charles is doing is he's suddenly going, I want to go to this thing. So he went to the School of Military Engineering. He gave them 8 days notice. Now, 8 days is nothing. He suddenly saw he had a gap in his diary. It was in Wiltshire, close to his home. And apparently he just sort of announced that he wanted to go along to see these people. They had to obviously get everything ready. I mean, they say, the royal family, that the smell that they know is the smell of fresh paint, because everywhere that they go, people have repainted. Well, you don't get a chance to repaint in 8 days. So I think the guy or the woman who's looking after Charles's diary will be having a hard time at the moment. He did say when he got there that he was very grateful to be let out of his cage. So, you know, it's only less than a year since the coronation. He actually wants to be king. He waited a long time for it. So he obviously wants to get back into the role that he's waited his whole life for.